I will go ahead and call to order this regular city council meeting for Monday, April 25th, 2022. If we could say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Lanyon.
Present.
Pratt.
Here.
Bellinger.
Here.
Siebold. Rhines. Gilroy.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
I am looking for a motion to excuse both Councilman Rhines and Councilman Siebold. They both were able to contact me and let me know that unfortunately they would not be able to attend this evening. Thank you. Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now we have approval of this evening's agenda. I'm looking for that unless there's any changes that need to be made.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Thank you so much.
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries as well. And now we have an opportunity for audience participation with a maximum of 5 minutes per presentation. Do I have anybody that would like to come forward? Mr. Hall.
Kent Hall, 509 Red Cedar Boulevard, also known as Wrinkle Street. My friend Pastor Matt Mangan of Mount Hope Church wanted me to let you all know that May 5th is National Day of Prayer, and they will be here in front of City Hall, not on the road, right out here in the lawn, noon to 1 o'clock, if anybody could make it. Special invitation to John and what's your name, Kim?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Yeah. That's it.
All right, thank you, Ken. Appreciate you being here this evening. Moving along, we've got our council meeting minutes for April 11th, 2022. I'm looking for approval unless there were any changes noted.
Move to approve the council meeting minutes of April 11, 2022.
Thank you so much. Do I have support?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. No, we have accounts payable.
Yes, and I have them all with me tonight if anybody wants to look at them later. But I did get a chance to go through them all, and I'd like to make a motion to approve check 75404 dated 4/5 through check 75467 dated 4/14, ACH account 247 through 255, the amount of $192,271.70.
All right. All right. Does anyone have any questions this evening?
Rachel's not here. Who's cutting the checks?
That would probably be our deputy treasurer,
Deputy
Ann
treasurer.
Planner.
Okay.
Ann Casper. Mix the two names together, and I'm sure John is overseeing that as well. So, yeah. All right. We have our account motion on the floor. I'm looking for support.
Second.
Thank you. Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Gilroy.
Yes.
Lanyon.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
All right, moving along, we're going to start out with our action items, and our first action item is to set our public hearing for the 2022-2023 fiscal year budget. And John, I'll just go ahead and turn this short memo over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Gilroy, members of council. So what we're setting the public hearings, plural, for the budget and for the millage for the 2022-23 budget, or 23 fiscal year. The date of that public hearing is our regular council meeting of May 9th, 2022. So that would be the motion time, is to set the public hearing, those two public hearings for May 9th, 2022. And just for those who are watching, and for council's benefit as well, we do post the draft budget online, as well as the proposed millage rate. The overall millage rate will actually be a little bit less this year because of the Headley rollback. So that's the kind of the nitty-gritty details of things.
Great. All right, I'm looking for that motion.
Question first?
Yes, go ahead.
What's a Headley rollback?
How much time do we have tonight? The Headley rollback is related to Proposal A, which was adopted sometime when I was in elementary school, and it caps the availability of taxes can't rise by more than 5%
Those
of the
happen
rate
to
of,
function.
right, can't rise by more than 5% of the rate of inflation, and when that, if your overall taxable value increases above that, you have what's called a Headley rollback. So your overall millage is, there's a fraction it's multiplied by that, and it's something less than it was the year before.
Okay, that's related to the emails that you and I exchanged about the state equalized value?
That's right,
Okay,
yep.
got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question, Terry, thank you. All right, so,
So when
Can we have one motion including both of the items?
Yep, just as long as they're both spelled out.
Okay.
And can you specify that it's for 7:00 PM?
I
Because
make a
it'll start-
motion to set the public hearing for the 22-23 fiscal year budget and the 22-23 city millage rate for May 9th at 7:05 PM.
Great, thank you so much. Do I have support? All right. Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
All right. Now we have our professional services Railroad Street Fulton Parcels Phase 1 ESA warranted, and I'll go ahead and turn this right over to Scott.
All right, as is included in your packet, there is a memo in there explaining what's going on. Property owner for some parcels that are basically, you can't build on them, near the railroad tracks, has approached the city and said, hey, I'd like to possibly donate these to the city. In order for the city to do that and accept that, it's highly recommended that we do an environmental assessment of the property. Basically, it just establishes what the history has been, and that the city wouldn't be responsible if there's ever contamination or some other problem found with the property environmentally type of thing. So what we did is we talked with the company that has done this work for us in that area on the TIFA projects in the past, Triterra. They gave us the proposal and included that in your packet.
All right, great.
There
Questions
is-
for Scott?
There is a colored version of the map that I think all of you have been provided with. These are platted parcels.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, if this does transpire and the city gains possession of this land, it allows us to possibly shift the road, utilities, things like that. It would potentially alleviate a problem that the city dealt with a few years ago with a property owner where part of the house is actually out in the road right of way.
Yeah, we had that.
So it's the green circled area right now, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but there's two kind of green circled areas. They're irregular shaped parcels.
I guess I had one question just from reading through it. I see that it benefits the house there at the corner of Mill and Railroad greatly. What other benefits would the city have by shifting the road? Because I think it's a pretty big undertaking, right? All in all.
We would have to go through, there's other problems in this area with the way that the old plat was done in the 1800s. It would benefit by getting the roads aligned better eventually. There is some other stuff that's problematic further to the west that we would have to deal with that as that time comes. It gives us adequate space for any other sewerage that needs to happen. There is some storm sewers down through there. Right now, the road is narrow in that area, and if there's future improvements to a road, we would need to have additional right-of-way like this. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
There is benefit to the city, basically, in the short.
Any other questions for Scott? No? All right, I'm looking for that requested action then.
Make a motion to approve a contract with Triterra for environmental counseling services to complete Phase 1 ESA and property addresses 0 Fulton Street parcels 331807011301 and 129001 in the amount of $2,200 not to exceed.
Thank you, Terry. Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. If there's no other questions for Scott, Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next,
I
moving
have a
along.
question after the fact. This is a really cool map. I assume the blue is water service. What are the red things?
The red dots are the fire hydrants.
Fire hydrants.
Yes, and the blue dots are where the curb stop shut-offs are for people's water services.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question, thanks. All right, moving along, we've got our major and local streets crack sealing contract. John, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Gilroy, members of council. We bid out our crack sealing contract this year in 2 phases. One for the current fiscal year that's wrapping up, and then for the fiscal year that'll start on July 1st. We got great bid coverage. We got, I think we had 6 total submissions, one did submit a bid bond, so we had 5 bids, which for, in this day and age, to get 5 bids for anything is pretty amazing. So we got great price, it's actually a little bit below our estimate, so recommendation's pretty simple, it's to award the Craftfield contract to Wolverine, they're out of Jackson, and they were the low bidder. Scott did do due diligence and check some references, and they checked out okay. So, yeah, happy to take any questions you have, Scott's here as well, but
All right.
I think that he did include, did you include the coverage map in the packet, where we're gonna be?
I didn't.
If someone would like to see that, it's a pretty good map, and we'll put that, when we get close to actually doing the work, we'll put that on our website.
Okay.
So the public gets an idea of where we're gonna be working.
All right.
And for those of you who don't know, it's as simple as it sounds, crack fill is just that, gooey stuff that goes in the cracks of roads, and if you do it right, you can really, it's not as great as resurfacing, but you can extend the life of your roads anywhere from a year to 2, to even as much as 5, I think, that way.
Great, thank you. Any questions for John or Scott? No? All right, I'm looking for the requested action, please.
I'll make a motion, authorization of the 2022 crack sealing contract with Wolverine Seal Coating LLC of Jackson, Michigan at $1.14 per pound of material for up to $18,000 for fiscal year 2021-22 and up to $20,000 for fiscal year 2022-23 year crack sealing program.
Great, thank you so much. Do I have support for that?
Support.
Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Flanagan.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, next we have our staffing plan for city treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor Gilroy. Before we move on, I just want to point out that last item, it was a budgeted item, both
Okay.
for the current fiscal year and then as well as the respective budget, so.
Great, thank you.
So, all of us, we're sad to see Miss Pioneer move on, and but we're super happy for her. She was a great employee, and we're gonna feel her absence here for a time. But so as we move forward in this, because there's a lot of critical items going on now, there's the wrap up of the current fiscal year with audit, which is probably the most critical item, along with the preparation of tax bills for the coming year, preparation of the budget, and then our ongoing weekly and monthly accounting tasks. So what I'm asking for tonight is approval to engage Plant Moran for Treasury services for up to 32 hours per month. We don't expect to use them for that full amount. It's kind of a high-end estimate on a weekly, which tears out to about 8 hours a week. It's really for sort of management review and consulting than actual like button pushing. Like there's a question earlier about who does the accounts payable. That's a function that Ann already does, but then there's a double review of the treasurer and then now myself. And really from a separation of duty standpoint, because I have budget approval authority, I really shouldn't be the one reviewing. I can review those, but I shouldn't be approving them. So that's why we're asking for their help. That's a firm that I've worked with before. Sort of, in the overall sense, the dynamic that we're up against right now, there are currently 17 different either treasurer or finance director jobs that are open across the state of Michigan. So, which is great if you're in that line of work. It's a little tougher if you're trying to hire someone. So we want to make sure that we do have some higher level accounting support. And Ann's a great employee. She's certainly capable, but she's never been in the full treasurer chair before. So that's why we're asking for their help. So that's the first item that we're asking for. If folks, I know you may look at sticker shock and the hourly rate of the contract, but when you add up, if we were to do this for a year, and I'm not proposing that at all, but the overall net cost of having a full-time treasurer with benefits and retirement and things like that is actually a couple $1,000s or more a month than we would pay based on the full 32 hours of consulting services. And we're not gonna have senior level consultants or anybody like that beyond the first meeting or so. Right. So that's the first item. Secondly, we want to advertise the treasurer position immediately, get that out. There's a number of different places to do that. It's something I've done before, so that doesn't scare me. We did have some good discussions with Rachel while she was on her way out about her assisting with tax bills, because that's sort of the most critical, labor intensive task as far as preparing the budget, and that's getting the tax rolls right and making sure that they're everything is in order, and that's our major source of revenue, so we want to make sure we do that right. And so she agreed to help us with that on a consulting basis as we wrap up this year. And again, the timing of everything, if this is this is month 2 for me, if this was month 14, we probably wouldn't be doing any of these, but you know, I'm still getting familiar with Williamston systems, we want to make sure things are in order, so. And then finally, Anna is taking on some additional responsibilities, so we're just asking for a small stipend for her through the life of until we have somebody hired permanently.
Excellent. And Tim, did you have an opportunity to read over the contract?
I did, and I have one comment
Okay.
on there, and that is with regard to section 17.
Okay.
On the indemnification, defense, and hold harmless.
Okay.
This contract, of course, is not necessarily, or the standard terms are not necessarily designed for a governmental entity.
Okay.
But since we are a governmental entity and constitutionally prohibited from granting an indemnification, I would recommend, at least initially, that delete section 17.
Okay.
And as an alternative, they could add a phrase after the first clause of the first sentence, to the extent permitted by law. And that just puts any dispute down the road,
Okay.
if we ever had one.
Okay.
And if neither one of those are acceptable to the contractor, well, then entry into the contract would be a business judgment by the city.
Okay. All right. Are you comfortable with that?
Just editorial that no attorney likes anybody else's indemnification clause.
All right,
Only
I know.
respect to the attorneys
Sure,
at the table.
sure.
So, yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, excellent, perfect. And we're gonna need to have 4 separate actions moving this forward, so there's gonna be 4 motions. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hannafin before I ask for those motions? I think this is a great plan. I think it, you know, gives Anne an opportunity to take on a little bit more responsibility temporarily. And then, you know, I love the fact that Rachel, you know, I knew she wouldn't cut ties. So I love that she's willing to help out in that, especially with this being our critical time of year, rolling into the end of the fiscal. So I'm comfortable with that.
What's the future with Ann? Do you think she'll ever, does she aspire to grow into the full treasurer position?
We've had some preliminary discussions about that, but frankly, because I am new, and I think she's certainly capable, but I think she wants to make sure that she's comfortable. And so this will give her an opportunity to see if she's comfortable.
Great.
So how long, John, do you think it's gonna take to hire somebody with the?
No,
You know,
17 positions.
Again, I would think, but through the chair, I would think it's probably 90 days or so by the time we advertise
Sure.
and go through an interview process. That'd be the most optimistic.
Sure.
That's to get somebody, I think, of quality. It's just, the other thing that's kind of like interesting is like geographically, if it was like in one area of the state, if they were all in southeast Michigan, but they're like everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, all right, well, best of luck when you start that search, and we will be anxious to see who fills that role. But if there's no other questions or comments, I will ask for that first motion.
Make a motion to contract with Platt Moran for treasury services for up to 32 hours per month for the period of May 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2022, with the possibility of an extension for up to 3 months, with the modifications as suggested by the city attorney for the section 17.
Good job, Terry, we were all like whispering down the line to make sure that you remembered that. Thank you so much for that motion, it was
That's why
excellent.
we're poking you in the side. Get it out there.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you so much. All right, Holly, will you call the first roll?
Hanson,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes,
Lanyon,
Yes.
thank you so much, and now I'm looking for the second motion.
I'll make a motion to advertise immediately for the treasurer's position with a starting salary of $70,000.
Thank you so much, do I have support?
Second.
Thank you both. Holly, will you call the roll?
Hanson,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes,
Lanyon,
Yes.
all right, I'm looking for that third motion.
I'll make a motion to contract with Rachel Piner to assist with the tax bill preparation for summer 2022 for a lump sum of not to exceed $2,500.
Thank you, do I have support?
Support.
Thank you both. Holly, will you call the roll?
Lanyon,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes. And now I'm looking for that fourth motion.
I'll take the last one. Increase the salary of the deputy treasurer by $100 per week for the additional duties until the treasurer position is filled.
Thank you so much, Noah. Do I have support?
Second.
Thank you both. With that, our last roll call for this action.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
All right.
Is there a parliamentary procedure thing that prohibits the mayor from making?
I cannot,
Yes.
no. I've never, the only time I can ever make a motion is the very, last meeting of the year when, or the first meeting of the year when Holly's in charge, and that's my one and only time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Didn't know. Now I know.
All right, our very last action for this evening is Comcast Michigan Uniform Video Service Local Franchise Agreement, and we have Benjamin Miller here. So Benjamin, please step up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members, and please refer to me as Ben.
Okay, Ben, thank you, Ben.
There's several things you could use ahead of that, and I turn around and look for my dad. What is before you now is a uniform franchise agreement with the city of Williamston and Comcast. To set the table, I am local. I'm in East Lansing. I office out of South Lansing. I have Ingham County in my responsibilities for government affairs. So in the future, as customers, residents, and any number of people who will find fit to complain about us, it usually begins right about the time we start service. Everyone loves us right until we put a trenching tool into the ground, and all of a sudden we're the worst people in the world. You, thankfully, will not have to answer any of those questions and simply say, hey,
Call
I've got a phone number here, I will let him know you called, and then that will be my problem. Jokes aside, what we are doing and where Williamston fits in the larger scheme of things, we have plant that stops in Howell. We have plant that stops in Meridian Township. We would like to connect these two wonderful communities. We are going to start with a fiber backbone that, for all practical purposes, anyone in this area will understand is following Grand River. There will be weaves and twists, but you can mentally process that idea. From there, after we build that fiber backbone, we will begin to move out into neighborhoods. For Williamston, as a community, we need a franchise because it is our intent to serve the customers. I overheard earlier, and I want to answer the question before it's technically asked. We do have a full complement of services, from home security. We still offer voice over phone, landline service, mobile service, video service. Broadband internet is the golden thing at the moment. But we will offer all of those services to the customers here in Williamston. I cannot tell you right now the date certain in which we will begin to offer that service. I'm sure for the same reasons it's going to be difficult to fill a treasurer's role, the same reason it's difficult to do much of anything anymore. Supplies are at a premium, manpower is at a premium, and this is a particular field that everyone, including some governments, are trying to be in. So our competition is extensive. As you rightly noted, that is absolutely what we'll do. That is actually a unique situation where I don't have to say in the theoretical that we will reach out to your community public works office. We will operate. The franchise agreement provides and prescribes certain things that have to be done. It is our intention always in every community to work with the community for their particular permitting, their particular right-of-ways, their particular notifications. As a recent relevant example, we just had a call earlier today with Diamonddale and their city manager to talk about how we are going to notify those residents of when we're going to do work, the contact information. For your situational awareness as well, we are not exclusively Comcast employees when we go to build these projects. We do have subs. We have particular contractors that do particular parts of the work. We are responsible for all of them. We will have introductory phone calls. You will have contact information. I'm sure much of this should have been outlined. I don't know who you talk to, but we will talk if make sure that those things were done. But we will do all of those things so that everyone has a good sense of where we're going, based circumstances notwithstanding. So you guys are informed, you can share with your constituents, and so on and so forth.
Great.
So I'm happy to answer any questions folks have in particular.
Go ahead, Brandon.
So I have two. The first one, you said there's no, set timeline, but theoretically, what's the timeline you're looking at for this trunk to run?
We would like to at least have the fiber backbone done this year, this
Okay.
calendar year.
That's gonna be my
Yep.
question.
And then, did you have a chance to look over all this?
Well, yes, and this is a statutory agreement.
Mhm.
Nobody can deviate from this.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Yep.
Good.
And it's not exclusive, so, and we've gone over this a couple of times with the city manager, city clerk, and this is what you get.
All right,
Excellent.
good.
Yeah, and to that end, as your council rightly points out, this is a state statute.
Yep.
This is different from a Metro Act. Sometimes you may have come across your desk. That is simply a right-of-way permit that does not allow for servicing customers, whereas a franchise agreement does. I think it's Handy Township immediately to our east, right, just over the Livingston line.
Yeah, yeah.
We just had a Handy Township Metro Act approved that does not guarantee or ensure that those citizens will receive service. It is likely in the future we will, but at the moment, they're just not, the math isn't there for the homes passed. In this case, obviously, going through a population center, that is true, so we can build out and make back the resources we put in.
So, my question would be, you're looking to get this trunk done this year. What type of disruption would we see on Grand River as we're going along that path for our residents?
For your residents, other than, and since I've ridden my bike down Grand River more than once through Williamston, which I'm very happy about the ceiling, by the way, just sidebar.
Good.
I would imagine outside of the customers, outside of the homes facing Grand River, you would see very little interruption.
Okay.
What, I leave myself that little window of very little interruption. Largely, this will be an aerial through Williamston proper.
Okay.
There might be a little bit of underground,
Okay.
but generally it is our hope always to, when we can, especially on the backbones, operate in an aerial construction so that we're attaching to the utility poles, not going underground if we can avoid it. So I wouldn't imagine it would be terribly disruptive to most of those individuals, other than maybe having a truck out there once or twice a day, kind of thing, to set the J-hooks and so on, so.
So I'm gonna ask that next big question.
Yeah.
If you get Grand River done this year, what would you foresee as service to our residents?
It would certainly begin within the first 6 months of the next year. We would have to drop, we'd have to make sure that we had power, we'd have to, and that, once you get into the neighborhoods again, depending on the pole placement, depending on some other things, topography and other items, that might see a little bit more. And then, who has a sidewalk, who doesn't have a sidewalk? Like all of these things that play in the anything that is a community that's been around for a while.
Yeah.
You have some lines that, well, this line says this, well, but this is where the sidewalk is. Yeah, I understand.
Right.
Sir, I understand that, but
Right.
you should check your plat map. Nobody checks their plat map. Well, the plat map's from 1886. Oh, okay, well, these are the kinds of things that generally go into those considerations. But, it shouldn't strike you, probably anyone too surprising here, that you don't actually get too many customers if you torque them off in the process of building the thing you seek to provide them,
Right,
generally speaking.
right.
So
Sure.
it's always our intent to be as light a footprint and as courteous and polite as possible.
Absolutely. Other
What's the-
questions, Terry?
Yeah, what's the final thing that that you're delivering to people? Is it gonna be a dedicated digital subscriber line? Is it gonna be cable? Is it gonna be fiber to the house? Is
It
it
can be whatever the customer wants. We will avail all of our services to all of them.
if I want fiber to my modem?
Well, so that's an important distinction. It's a way we do our process. If you've read anything at all in the last year and 2 years or so, starting the pandemic, rolling right through the federal stimulus, you might hear a lot about the phrase fiber to the premises. That is not what we do. We do a fiber backbone, and then we do a hybrid fiber coax to the home. And
Hybrid fiber coax.
yeah, that's the process. It's essentially everything that you know about cable in the traditional sense. It's the same connection to the home.
So it's an actual coaxial cable, backed
Yeah.
up with fiber someplace?
Yes, and so we, rather than take the fiber, so if you, let's just use theoretical Main Street. There's a Main Street somewhere in the world, but the Main Street, you run fiber down the Main Street, and then you drop, so the drop down from the fiber to the home, and then that would branch out, and then the coax would go to each of the homes on Main Street.
So,
There is, as a technical exercise, it is not immediately symmetrical. That's another thing you hear a lot about, symmetrical speeds, uploads and download speeds being the same. With our plant and with our delivery method, that immediately you would not have symmetrical speeds up and down. We are in the process of the technology that will allow us, through our Project Genesis 10G, that we will have symmetrical speeds arguably on that same plant within 3 to 5 years throughout our system nationwide. So that is our intent. The technology is growing that allows us to do that. For practical purposes, we'll be able to give you people, you'll be able to sit in your home and ask for, if you want 1 gig service, you're gonna be able to get it. Unless you're Bitcoin mining from your home, I don't know that you're gonna necessarily need that. For upload speeds, just defend our own process here. While that is a fine thing for a company that only does fiber to talk about, and there's nothing wrong with it, but for a day-to-day use, unless you are uploading CAD software for rebuilding Michigan State's campus, I'm not necessarily certain that you probably really need to be uploading at a gig.
Right.
And that's kind of the hard truth of the matter. I mean, most folks from a general upload are sending an email, maybe attaching some pictures, maybe a video.
I got
Don't.
one question.
Yeah.
So, in our area, we have a couple, entities already supplying internet, TV, and different things, and I don't think that anybody really has too much of a problem with their pricing or their speed. It's usually the reliability of it that is the problem.
Yep.
How do you guys compare to competition as far as reliability of service?
Well, I don't imagine you're gonna expect a different answer than the one I'm about to give you, but, and I suppose I wouldn't wanna work here much if I gave you a different answer.
Right.
But in genuine, being very genuine, we believe we have the most reliable network in the country. We have the quickest turnaround, we have the largest, most robust service team of our own. We don't contract out for repairs and servicing our plant. We're very particular about that. And we stood up through the entire pandemic. We saw in the first 8 months of the pandemic, which year was that? Was that 2020? Does
Yes.
anyone remember? In 2020, we saw 3 years of traffic in the first 6 months,
Wow.
and we didn't break a sweat. I mean, that's probably not fair. Somebody broke a sweat. But it was, our service held up. And so we're very proud of our service, and we would put it up against really anybody in terms of both our ability to manage outages and traffic and our sheer bandwidth we can bring to any sort of problem. I would say an example, does everyone remember, it would have been November or so of last year, there was a significant windstorm.
Yep.
And there were the tornadoes down south, the candle factory was leveled and so on. And we had a bit of wind that Saturday here as well. In Lansing, East Lansing, along Hagedorn,
Yes.
there was significant damage to the poles on the east side of the road.
It got caught by the train
and
and ripped it, like
Yes.
36
Oh, I remember
poles.
so
Yeah.
we were on that drop and we were taken out by that train. And we can have a discussion about trains another time. But nonetheless, despite whatever number you could call to tell them to stop the train, they didn't pick up. So they took it out, and we did have an outage from that Saturday afternoon. I happened to have been at the MAC at the time, so I knew exactly when the lights went out, and they said we all had to go, and then drove out around it. We could have been up Monday morning. We had to deal with the Lansing Board of Water and Light and getting their pole set on the north side of the track. But we had, despite having plant in Kentucky, and despite having all of the things that we had to deal with there and in Tennessee, we had 25 people. It was, and we apparently needed to, I wasn't on site for this moment, but apparently we had to like separate some people from Board of Water and Light from our guys, wanting to put it back up.
Right.
So I would say across the country, particularly in Michigan, we have significant plant from really, you take everywhere south of Genesee County down through Kentucky or Indiana, and we're servicing every major community from southeast Michigan over to Lake Shore. So we have resources to bear when things do go down, because things happen. So I would put our resources against that situation, against really any other organization.
Just tell me one more time again, you're connecting from where to where again? Down Grand River?
We're in Howell
Howell.
now. We're in Meridian Township, and we'd like to connect the two.
If there's no other,
A friend of mine has, they live out in the country, and they'd love to have cable, but cable's owned by WOW, and WOW's a Chinese company, and the guy has a security clearance, and so they can't use the WOW thing, so they have to use DSL, and it's really not good service.
No,
Are you guys owned by China?
we are not.
Well, that's a good-
Believe it or not, actually, I'm not often asked this question. We're a publicly traded company, a very big one, but it's actually, I know we're big bad, terrible Comcast, we have Universal Studios, and we've got
No,
NBC.
don't worry about that.
We're a
You're
massive
okay.
corporation, da-da-da-da. But it's actually kind of interesting. Not that this is what you wanted to talk about on Monday night, but I'm taking advantage. The company was started by a gentleman, Mr. Roberts. He owned a cable franchise in Mississippi. That's how it started. And in the late 60s, early 70s, and it has grown to what Comcast is. His son runs the company. So while we are a Fortune 50 company, we are all these billions of dollars, at the end of the day, we are still run by the same person, the family that started the thing. So we are not Chinese owned.
That's good to hear, good to hear.
I got
So,
one.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
In my backyard, there's a power pole that goes down the middle of the block there, kind of thing. And then lower on the power poles is where WOW runs their cables. Where are your cables gonna be? Pretty much like right next to
Like
the WOW?
Right underneath. So
Yeah,
this is
neighboring
actually,
cables.
this is my biggest job, is actually this. They're called pole attachment agreements. They're regulated by the state with investor-owned utilities, co-ops, and munis. It is investor-owned here, so there are prescribed laws about power and transmission at the top, 16-foot drop, should be 16, before the next comms, and then WOW will have top comms on these poles. We will be just beneath them, 3.5 feet.
Awesome. Excellent. Tom?
So I had a question. If we were to agree to enter into this franchise agreement with Comcast, and I'm assuming you're gonna have to seek the same approval through Weberville and Fowlerville and some of the other
Yes.
townships along the way. If for any reason anybody between Howell and East Lansing says, no, we don't want it, does that kind of null and void the whole thing? Or are you throwing out the idea, or you
No.
trying to work around that?
We, Fowlerville and Weberville were a little harder to get down. I didn't have the courtesy of a manager said, come on out, I'll show you the WOW franchise, because our fee is based on the incumbent provider as prescribed in the act.
Right.
So it's what it was, and provided the copy of the, got the franchise, the whole bit. Other communities were a little harder to run down. At the end of the day, no,
We'll figure it out.
we'll get it done,
Okay.
so.
So what is the city obligated to do because we signed into this thing? Are we obligated to receive, the city hall, for instance, to receive internet services from you guys, or
We will pay for it. We,
are we obligated to?
oh,
No.
no, you still have freedom of choice.
Yeah.
So
You
there's-
still have freedom of choice. This is just an additional choice that's gonna be coming right down Grand River.
So there aren't really any city, we aren't entering into a legal obligation to.
You don't have to
use
buy
your
our stuff.
services.
No, no. This is just to give them the ability to put their utility on Grand River in the hopes that they will go into our neighborhoods and our constituents will have that choice they've been looking for.
And I'm sure, John, and I will say, John will probably get a phone call from Comcast Business at some point saying what wonderful service we could provide to City Hall.
Right.
You'll get a pitch, I
Right.
don't wanna say that, but yeah, you'll be pitched, but, no, you're not under any obligation to do.
So you plan on going the north side or the south side of Grand River?
Well, ultimately, we'll serve the entire town. Yeah.
The main fiber though, coming down.
Oh, I'd have to, honestly, probably the north side. Because I'm looking at the poles right here, and I'm looking at the power source.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be the north side.
Yeah.
There's a window here, so I can answer that question. Oh, the north side.
All very, very good questions, all very good answers. Are there any more questions before I call for this motion? I don't know who wants to beat each other to it, but I'm gonna call for the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Michigan Uniform Video Services local franchise agreement with Comcast of Michigan LLC with a 3% franchise fee and 0% PEG fee, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. All right, if there's no other discussion or any other questions, Holly, will you call the roll? Yes.
And that is 3% franchise fee. That's
Yes.
why I was worrying about the obligation.
No, and we pay that, that's the same thing that WOW has too, they have a franchise fee, so it's standard and
And
uniform.
that's not you paying us.
No.
That, we collect that from the video subscribers.
Yeah,
It's in their bill.
Yeah.
We pass that on to you.
This is money that we get.
Yes.
So we're obligated to get this money.
yes, we get money from WOW
I'll say sorry,
as well.
0%.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Holly, we call the roll.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
That concludes our action items for this evening. Ben, thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank
We
you all
really
very much.
appreciate it.
And please.
Please come back.
Yes, and if you, like I said, if you all need anything, please don't hesitate to call.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
See ya.
All right, that concludes our action items for this evening. Moving along, we do not have any discussion items on our agenda, nor did we receive any correspondence. We have our department head reports, and John, you provided a memo for us. Would you like to expand?
I don't have much to add other than the, just, the overview of the full 4 bullet points. I think that, it's always a good, when you have turnover we had, some of it was retirement with the police chief,
Yep.
and some of it was others for what brought me here, and with Rachel moving on to a different position, I think that with those 4 key positions, we need to look at those and make sure we're competitive, and that's something that's, it doesn't have to be overly drawn out. It will be scientific, because I'll just gather the data from surrounding communities, and we'll see where we are as far as compensation, overall compensation for those positions. And the DDA, we had a good DDA meeting last week. They approved kayak launch, which was good. Digital sign policy, everyone's favorite topic, will be here on the 9th. And then went to the Chamber of Commerce, and that's something that I'll keep doing. I'm not on the board yet, but I ultimately will be. It's a good group, and I know they're really trying hard to sort of resurrect things after
Yep.
some dormancy. So a lot of good things happening, and that's it. So,
We
And I-
can look forward to some controversy in this May 9th.
No, I don't think so.
No, good spirited
That's an honest
community
question.
dialogue.
Good dialogue.
Oh, no,
I think it's gonna be fine.
no, I've met with the group a couple times, and, yeah, we're working it all out, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. I want to say thank you too for your off-council week
Yeah.
reports. I love that. I look forward to it now. Yep, it helps. And Chief is not here this evening. Do you have anything to share on his behalf?
Things are good, and we
Okay.
talked also about his attendance. You know, he's gonna try and start moving forward, going to the second council meeting of the
Okay.
month, and then have more of a sort of a statistical written type report.
Excellent.
And he'll certainly be here if he has a specific agenda item. But,
Okay.
yeah, no particular reason for him to not be here, other than that he didn't have anything specific on the agenda or to report.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. Committee reports. Anybody want to share anything from any meetings that they've been to?
Go ahead.
All right, we'll start at the end.
NISA meeting last week,
Okay.
probably the biggest thing from there was Station 61, which is the Williamston station, was finally paid off. So we had like a mortgage burning ceremony kind of.
Nice.
It's the right place for it.
You know, a couple other moves within the organization, I think are gonna help,
Okay.
with some standing operating procedures and it's good stuff.
That's amazing. Congrats to them for their paper burning.
Seriously.
Excellent. Noah?
I had a chance, we had a cemetery board meeting. There's a couple things coming up on the calendar. We're gonna be putting together an RFP to do some landscaping and some other stuff out there.
Okay.
They were also looking at the budget, so we were going through the budget proposals, looking at needing some asphalting done on some of the driveways, some crack sealing. So I told them to get with you, because I knew we were coming up, and maybe to share some idea and people, so that they could get a better cost price than what they've got. So it was a good meeting.
All right. Anyone else want to share? Okay. Yeah, Carrie?
Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
And Chief Wolf was there
Okay.
and didn't say a single thing for the entire time. And I thought to myself, why are we taking his time?
Because he wants to,
So
he wants
this-
to know what's going on.
Yeah, so I think this idea that he shows up every other council meeting, that's a good idea.
Gives him some more freedom,
Well,
flexibility.
yeah.
Yeah. Nothing from you?
No,
All right,
nothing.
excellent. All right, we have an opportunity for audience participation. I see we have our MSU student here. Would you mind introducing yourself? I'm gonna be meeting with her after council, but I always like to draw attention to our journalism students. So stand up, state your name, and
Hi everybody, my name is Lily Cross. I am originally from Miami, Florida, but I attend Michigan State. I'm a junior majoring in journalism, and I've been covering Williamston as my community beat for the past semester, and it's been great getting to know all of you guys and this lovely city and the people in it. So thank you for what you're doing, and I'm happy to be here.
thanks, Lily.
Thank you.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but I do it to every journalism student, so gives you the exposure that you're looking for in journalism. All right, council member comments? I'll start with Brandon.
I have two, so I think now it's getting warmer, I think it's important to remind citizens that we do have a leash law. There have been several instances in front of my house of people walking without their dogs on leashes, and they got into altercations. The second, I wish Chief was here, but he had two officers that made a stop in front of our house, and they put on a master class of being tolerant and patient and doing the right thing. It was a very difficult situation, and they handled it beautifully. So they did a phenomenal job, and I was going to applaud him and his folks, but that's what I got.
All right, well, thank you, and those are both great reminders, so definitely good information. Noah?
No additional comments for the evening.
Terry?
No comment.
Tom?
Nothing from me.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna echo kind of that, you know, as summer is rolling in, good weather, bad weather, it's just good to be knowledgeable of that type of stuff. Be respectful of your neighbors with all of that, as far as like noise nuisances. We do have several ordinances on the book regarding that. If you are in question of them, please call our city hall and they'd be able to share that information with you. It's lighter longer, just be cognizant of people on bikes, walking, Twisters is open. So, you know, there's always a lot more activity in the community during our spring, summer, fall months. So just be aware of that and be good neighbors to each other this year. That's all I'm asking for. We've had a long 2 years since COVID, so it's time for everybody to get out and about and enjoy what our community has to offer. And I think that is it for this evening, so I will go ahead and adjourn us at 10 to 10.